Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Narita Ramirez podcast, episode 32. Boop, boop. Yeah, and I have here a special guest, Erica. And I'm going to read her intro here in a second. Before I say that, I just want to share that I've known Erica since we were little kids.
Yeah.
Since we were little kids, so I'm really happy that you're here and that
Thank
we're sharing
you.
these moments as an adult.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit, not a little bit, I'm actually going to read her intro where you can find her, and we're going to talk about traveling. And one of the things that made me really, really curious to have Erica on the podcast is reading her blogs of traveling and the connection that she has with it with mental health. So I really wanted to share with you guys all just those pieces of traveling and how it could help. And I know a lot of people talk about how we can run from our problems and feelings when we're traveling, but there's also a whole different perspective
Yeah.
that it's how can we cope with our feelings and be mindful of them and use traveling as a coping skill.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, so this is Erica, and Erica is a travel blogger. As a mom, wife, daughter, friend, and former corporate professional, she understands how difficult it can be at times to get out and explore. She creates itineraries for all kinds of trips that can get you out of the office. The trips are fully planned and budget friendly, and the work is done for you. So all you have to do is pick a location and go. You can check the you can check out the itineraries on her website at out-of-office 2.webnod
I think so.
nod.com. So let me know. Like I'll put it under on the show links and stuff. Web node or nod.
I
It's one
think
of
it's
those. Node.
web node, but
Okay,
I
node.
could be wrong. I've
I
never actually
misspell
said it
stuff
out
all
loud.
the time. I think I'm wrong. I've had people correct me live.
Oh, okay. It's
It's
okay.
probably
We'll
nodes.
say web node. We'll say web node.
But I'll put it underneath in the link. Or you can also find her on Instagram and TikTok at out of the office underscore with love Erica, and also on the Lemon 8 app and on the Take Me Out of the Office app.
Yeah.
Yay. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you'd love to share?
No, I'm
With
just
you?
grateful to be on here. Thank you for thinking of
Yeah,
me.
of course.
I'm excited to be here.
Yay. So I know you wrote a couple of blogs, right? And I know in the blogs, that's what I was really curious about was the connection that you had with mental health and traveling.
Yeah.
Like, how did you first make the connection?
There's this study that says when you're in a green area or you're surrounded by green,
Mhm.
people tend to be calmer, more happier. And
Okay.
so I think that that's where my mental health and traveling comes in. Whenever
Okay.
I travel, one of my top priorities is go to a mountain or go on a hike, go see a
Yeah.
waterfall or a nice view. And so to me,
Yeah.
that's a lot of the mental health aspect where I go out and I get to explore. But because I'm in that greenery and I'm also reflective and I think
Yeah.
about what's going on and I get to be grateful. And so it just helps my mental health altogether while traveling.
Yeah. And I relate to that too, because when I'm traveling, like I always have my journal.
Yeah.
Like I take it everywhere I go. Like I have my book, and I try to be really mindful of just like the feelings and also reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think would be like the difference between when somebody is running away from their problems and their feelings and they're traveling as to let me use traveling as a coping skill?
So I think that it really depends on the way you look at it. You could look at it as like something giving or something taking. When a lot of people think of travel, they think of going to Hawaii, laying on the beach with their Mai Tai. And like, no, nobody talk to me. I'm out of the grid. And for me, that's not what I think of when I travel. I have every minute planned and I'm going. But I do have that time to go and explore. So going back to your question, like when it comes to travel, I don't try to run away. I try to actually use that time to reflect. I use that time to see the actual good things around me. When we're in a rut and like going at home, we can get depressed, we can get sad because it's like this constant need from us, and we're like always going, always rushed. And when you're on vacation, you get that time to breathe, you get that time to see and think and really be grateful for the good things in life.
Yeah, I like that. I totally like that. Because the way that I see too, like if you're running away, it in a way it feels like you go, but you also numb everything else out.
Yeah. When you're at that beach, you're numbing. You're like, don't talk to me. I'm at the beach. I'm enjoying my silence.
Yeah.
But when you're going and being reflective and enjoying your time, like it's a different point of view.
Yeah, it is. There's been times even recently, like my whole summer and what was going on and stuff, like I ended up going to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And it was like such a reflective moment of like, okay, who have I been before? Like, who am I now?
Yeah.
Because like the last 3 years, like things have changed.
A lot.
Right? Like I'm not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was like so much growth in just that like week. And there's a lot of that affirmation of like, oh yeah, I know who I am. Like I'm the same person in these ways, but in these ways, like I'm not. And even like the feelings of sadness would pop in. It's like, hey, I'm going to sit with them. Yeah. Right? Because I also feel that people, when they've traveled and they're trying to run away, it's very much like on to the next thing. It's like what they're doing at home. Yeah. But like somewhere else. Yeah. In terms of like busy, like
numbing or like putting it in the back burner.
Yeah. Or like drinking stuff. Like I've met other travelers, even like through hostels where, I mean, I hope I'm not judging, right? But it's just like, it feels like an observation of, oh, like there's so much going on at home that you're numbing. And you can tell by like how they're drinking every night or how they're like on to the next thing or their flings with people. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I see. Okay. Like this is what it looks like on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. I guess it's the perspective. Like, are you going to run away from what is happening in your day to day, or are you going to increase to reflect and think and love and look back in a joyful way?
Yeah. So I'm curious to ask you, right? Like for people who've never done that before, who they've never traveled to be reflective, but they're curious, like what does that take? Like, is it a journal? Is it like specific questions?
It could be anything really. If you wanted to take a journal, I was going to say like journal or books. That's a lot of times where you like get to calm down and reflect and think. You don't have to if that's not something that you're into, or you don't want to add another thing to put in your backpack.
Yeah.
You only got the backpack.
Take that sweater out and take the journal.
Yeah. Which is going to be worth my mental health.
Yeah. No, just kidding. It's like, dang it.
But I think what it could be is like you do have a lot of waiting periods when you travel. If you think about it, like you're at the airport, you're waiting. You're on the airplane, you're waiting. Or even if you do a road trip, you're in the car.
That's so true.
You're not going to talk every minute of every second. There's a lot of pauses and thinking and just music playing in the background. So that could be reflective time. Especially if you go to areas where it's not luxurious and it's not as well as it is back at your home, or wherever your home is. It could be like the sense of gratitude, like your own bed, that sense of relief you feel when you go back to your home after the trip and you feel like, oh, I have my own bed and I have my own bathroom, or if you share or whatever. But like to me, it could even be as simple as like flat roads. I go to Mexico and you're like, oh, and then you get here and everything seems so smooth right after you get off the airport.
That's so true.
Those moments I think could be reflective, or including things with nature that could be reflective. Or even like if you go to a winery, I mean, yes, you are drinking alcohol, but it could be a time of sitting, relaxing, sipping and chatting. That could be a reflective time too.
Even that too, right? It's like a different intention. Like, let's me go and have a good time and be reflective and just take this moment in. Yeah. How do you do it? Because I know you have a baby. Like, how do you do it being married and then having a baby? Like, how do you be reflective as you're traveling? I'm so curious.
I honestly love traveling with him more than I do by myself. And I find it more reflective. And I know that sounds contradictory, sweet. But I'm being honest because so when it's just my husband and I, or like when I'm traveling with my cousins or my friends, you don't see things that you would with a child. So, for example, we'll go out and travel and we'll go on a hike. And so you're like, oh, look at the views, look at the pretty mountains, this and that. But my son, I mean, he's shorter, obviously. So he'll look, mommy, look at this rock. And it's like a heart-shaped rock. Or, oh, there's a dandelion. Let's make a wish. And like those little moments where you stop by and think like, if he wasn't there, I wouldn't have had this moment with him. And he just makes you like slow down.
Yeah.
He is all over the place.
So how old is he again?
He's 4.
He's 4. Okay.
He's 4. It sounds funny to say slow down and him in the same sentence, but he does like make you realize like those smaller moments. And so traveling with the child can actually increase reflectiveness.
I can imagine.
If you have to have the right mentality. If you go with like, oh my goodness, he's walking around, he's touching stuff, this is ruining my experience, then you're not going to enjoy it. But if you think, wow, he brought this moment to me and he makes it funner and he's so funny and he says these things and people look at him and say hi and he says hi. And it's those moments and that mentality of like positive mentality that's going to help you enjoy it more.
That's sweet. That makes me curious, like the last like months or year or so, like I've been very curious to like, what is it like to be a mom? And I've never had that curiosity, right? But one of the things is like now when I see kids, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like I think it was the summer before the summer actually, I had this feeling of like, oh my God, this curiosity is growing like when I first started traveling. And that felt scary. Because for me, it's like, well, obviously I made traveling happen and now it's part of my life. So for me to have the desire to be a mom like that of traveling, it's like, oh, it's not just I'm curious to try like freaking a hamburger. It's like, no, even the downs. Like, what is that like? Like, what is it like for a mom to feel like overwhelmed when she's pregnant? Or like all the emotional, like, all these things that it's like, why am I so curious about that? Like, okay.
Because it's something your heart wants.
Yeah, it is. Now I'm like, okay, I want to be a mom. Yeah, but one of the things now that when I see kids and stuff, it's like, okay, like how does that work when you're traveling with them? Right? I know kids are so curious and they're so honest and they're so in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of know what you mean a little bit when it's like, it's funny that they're fast or like they're go, 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 but they can also slow you down.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine our brains being so like, well, on to the next thing, on to the next trail, on to the next, like, what's for lunch? And yet kids are like, hold on.
I'm present. This is my reality right now, and they don't know anything else.
Yeah, so that's so sweet. Yeah. What do you think you've learned from traveling with your baby? I still call he's going to be 10 years old, and I'm going to be like, Erica, tell me about your baby.
He'll always be my baby. I still call him that. I should probably go with Papas or something. But right now, he's my baby. I think that when you're traveling with a child, you are more like you get this profound like what's the word, like wow, like gratitude or like respect for other parents when they're traveling. Like you see people with babies like carrying and the dads with like the huge not maleta, but what's it called, the diaper
like the
bag.
Diaper bag.
And so you see like, wow, I'm like, say if you're traveling without a child, right? And you're like tired from a hike or you're tired from this, and then you turn around and you see those dads with the huge backpacks with the babies in the back. Those things are heavy. Have you tried those?
No.
Yeah, they're pretty heavy.
Oh my goodness.
And so
have you done it, or is it your?
I have done it, but I get tired, so then I give it to my husband, and he like will do the whole hike with him.
Oh my God.
And you think like, wow, I'm tired, but this person, this mom or dad or whatever, did it with the baby on their back.
Wow.
You think like, okay, so maybe it's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe we are more powerful than we think we are. We're able to do more things than we think we can. And
I always admire those people.
Yeah.
Like this summer, like I went on a hike to Big Pine Lakes in Northern California. Or it was last summer. But when we were coming down the peak, there was a mom who was going up and she had her baby in her pack, couple months, and then like a 4-year-old. But that's a hard ass fucking hike.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? Like how, like What?
Yeah. So
You
it's just like
know?
for you, it could be
Yeah.
valuable, like a not lesson, but like,
Yeah.
okay, I can do this. It was
Yeah.
hard. She did it with, with
Yeah.
children. Like we,
Yeah.
like it's empowering even.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's so sweet. So I know we had like other questions too. I wanted to tell you, or let's see. So another question that I have, right? It's like, how did you find the traveling passion?
To me, the earth is God's canvas. And
Yeah.
so I love to go out and look at mountains and rivers. And I think, like, wow, that is such a
Yeah.
talented artist. Like the sunsets and
Yeah.
everything. And so I just want to go and see the world. I want to see everything he
Yeah.
made. I want to explore it. I want to be grateful for it and admire it. And so to me, that's where my passion comes from for
Okay.
traveling. And big thing is like trying different foods. I
Okay.
love to go and eat in different places. I'll go to the mom and pops, and then I'll go to the, like, if possible, go to like the nicer places. But I think that I always gravitate towards like the place with a lot of reviews because it's so good. And trying to find new places is what, like, I just always want to try new things. I guess that's where my passion comes from.
That's okay. Yeah. I'm like, why haven't we hung out?
I know. Let's go. Let's try something.
You know, it's like even last time when we just hung out at the coffee shop, I was like, why didn't we hang out?
I know. We have a lot of similar traits.
We do.
We
Even
will.
like
After this,
the love of nature. It's like we should go on a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I felt the same way with hiking, and whenever I go somewhere, I'm always looking up like, where can I hike? Like, where is the trail?
Honestly, yeah. Like, that's my priority. On a Saturday morning, if I go on a weekend trip or something, I try, like, what is the nature that I can do? I mean, A, it's free most of the time. So it saves you a lot of money. And then B, like, the world is so beautiful. Like Oregon, Washington, like those are the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh.
So to like go and have hiking experiences, and like, that's just, to me, it's like the most exciting part.
Yeah, me too. And I always feel like no one mountain or like tree ever looks the same.
No.
Like it doesn't.
Yeah, because you say it out loud and you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna go to the mountain. I'm gonna go hike. And
it feels very generic.
Really did that, but it's like it's never the same.
Yeah, that's true. And I wanted to ask you too, because I know last time when we like talked about the podcast and stuff, we mentioned like the mental health aspect of it. And you don't have to share details, right? Like whatever you feel comfortable with. But it's like what was happening like in that space. I was like, okay, let me use traveling, or was it like a gradual thing, or was it like an instant, this is what I'm going through, I'm gonna travel? Because now for me, it feels like I don't think I realized it back then where I would use it and it would be like a coping skill. But now for me, even like this summer was like, what's like one thing that's gonna help me, or that's gonna help like I can cope with all these feelings that I'm going through. And it was like, I'm going to Costa Rica. Yeah. You know, it was like a 3 or 2 month kind of spontaneous, like I'm going.
You were there for 2 months?
Oh, no. Like I booked it like 2 months before.
Like,
oh, no. I wish. No. I was only there for a week. But it was like the start of my journey, it didn't feel that way. But when I first started traveling where I was an adult, I was already really reflective during that trip. Yeah. And it did change so much of my life. Like my career changed, like religion, like the way I thought about religion and my spirituality changed, like just so much changed. Yeah. But it goes back to, because I was reflective, right? Like I was very thoughtful and I was like questioning my beliefs and who I was and all this other stuff. But even then it wasn't like an automatic, like, yes, I'm going to do traveling as a way to, it just gradually became that. And now I know that that's one of my coping skills.
Now you look back and like, oh.
Yeah.
For me, I think it was also gradual. I don't think there was a like aha moment or like a check the box kind of moment. But I think over time you just realize, like, when it comes to mental health, it's really important to like be our best version we can at that time. Like one day you're depressed and all you can do is survive and be alive, and that is the best version you can at that time. But when you are not in, like, I suffer from clinical depression, or battle, I should say. I don't suffer, but and so when you have those really down moments, you realize
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm not always going to feel like this, but you
Yeah.
have that motivation that when you don't feel like that, you'll be
Yeah.
able to travel and you'll be able to do all those things
Okay.
because as ugly as the world may seem, like it's also
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's hard to see when you're depressed, but then you
That's
remember
so
all
true.
of the trips you've taken and you think, okay, this is how I
Yeah.
felt and this is how I remember feeling traveling. So I want that
Yeah.
again. So then it almost feels like a motivation for
Yeah.
you to be able to keep going and push through that day when you're feeling down, to be
Yeah.
able to look forward to something in the future.
Yeah. Those days are hard for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before I went to Canada in July, I was having a lot of like dark thoughts, and I don't know, like, I don't like to say depression because it's not like I didn't go to a therapist and I didn't get like diagnosed. So I don't want to take that away from people when they say they're depressed. But it was very much like, what's the point of living?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of all of this? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. But then it was like one of those things where it's like, well, I'm going to Canada. Like, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I worked through those feelings in my somatic sessions where it was like, oh, like my soul feels like it's dimming for all the other reasons that we talked about before the podcast.
Yeah.
But it was very much like, oh, yeah, I have to create a change. Because even when I was in Costa Rica, it was like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, I can feel my light, but it's not as bright as it usually has been.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those like reflective moments when you're traveling, like, okay, like, what's going on here? Like, I know who I am. I know how bright I could be. Like, what's
I'm
going
not at the
on?
best right now.
Yeah, yeah. But it's true. It's like it's something to look forward to. Yeah. Or even to add meaning. Cause I know in those days when I'm like, what's the meaning? Like I don't get it. And I was talking to one of my good friends. I only shared it with her where it was, and even with my somatic session, do you know who Anthony Bourdain is?
No.
No, like the chef? No, like he committed suicide a couple years ago.
Oh
But he
no.
traveled the world.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, and
That's so sad.
it was, yeah, it is. And I told my friend Jen, I was like, or I should have, I'll erase her name, but I told my friend how I could see why he committed suicide even after traveling the world.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just like a thought
Yeah.
where
No. Just,
it was like, oh, I can see because at some point, like you see all this beauty, but at the same time, you can see all the suffering.
yeah.
And at some point, it's like, oh, there's suffering everywhere. Like even as you travel and as you get to know like other cultures and like the way they live, it's like it doesn't go away.
Mm-mm.
Like it might go away for the person if you're traveling and you're again maybe running away from your problems or seeking a high. But if you're truly in the moment and you're reflective and you're present with like the culture, it's like, oh yeah, like that's there too. So in no way I was like, think I can relate to him because I travel
Yeah.
so much. And it's like, but it's the same everywhere. But then as I was going through those feelings and like even the somatic part and like the feelings of depression, it's like, hold on, but I also in the moment can have a choice to think of how there's also so many beautiful places in the world. Or there's so many other beautiful aspects that the world has to give.
Yeah.
So it feels like sometimes it feels like you can't choose. Like you wake up and it's like, fuck, what's the point of all this? What is the point of all this? And then there's like moments where it's like, okay, like here we are. And I've been there, seen that, and it is beautiful. Like, let me use that to carry me through,
Yeah.
you know?
And
I don't know what was the
that's
point
what
of
we
any of
have
that,
to.
but
Yeah, I like it, and I agree with it. And I
yeah.
think that we have the choice. Like he had
Yeah.
a bit. I mean, it sounds like he traveled the world and he was able to see. But I think that unfortunately, the
Yeah.
bad overweighed the good at that time, and that is what he
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling, so it's not like
Yeah.
I'm not judging him at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
know what you're
Yeah.
saying, and that
Yeah.
unfortunately won at the time.
Yeah.
But even like you said, you go to places like traveling is not glamorous always. If
Yeah.
anything, it makes you realize like all the ugliness in the
Yeah.
world too, and the sadness and the poverty and
Yeah.
places that could improve. And but it also could be uh, reflective, thankfulness,
Yeah.
thankful for the little things. And it's
Yeah.
also beautiful. Like I remember you'll go to Mexico and you'll go to a park and you'll see children,
Yeah.
no shoes, their clothes is sadly torn up and dirty.
Yeah.
And but they're having the time of their life playing with
Yes.
this little
Oh my God,
broken
yes.
ball, but they're so happy.
Yeah.
And we're over here like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have the fanciest car, I don't have this, I don't have that.
Yes.
And it can be like, you know what? Maybe I should be grateful too. Like things, little
Yeah.
things like that.
No, you're so
But it's
right.
hard to see when you're depressed. So I don't
Yeah.
want that to be taken
Yeah.
the wrong way either.
Yeah.
Like when you're depressed, I mean, even getting up to brush your teeth can
It's
seem
hard.
like the hardest task in the world. So
Yeah.
my respects to
Yeah.
Anthony. But
Yeah. Yeah. And going to what you were saying with the kid, so true. I remember going to Cambodia and it was there was houses built on these stands in the water and we're like on a boat, right? And my thought is like, wow, there's a lot of poverty. Like I knew about Cambodia before, so it wasn't like a surprise, but it's also different when you're seeing it. Right. And it's like, and then there's a lot of curiosity of like, oh, like they don't use cars, they use boats to get around. Like there's a church on a stand in the water. Like it's like its own little community in the ocean.
oh, how cool.
But then when we were leaving, like there was these kids playing in the water with a ball and they were so happy.
Yeah.
And I was
see?
like,
Yeah.
wow, like, and I have a picture of it and I have it in my mind right now where like the sun is shining, the guy, like the little kids like playing with the ball and like everybody's laughing. And it's like, wow, like
That's a
there's
beautiful moment in a sad situation.
yeah. And then even like that, it's like, oh, like our own perspective of like sadness.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, what if they're all like having the time of their lives in
Yeah.
this
To them, they're
community
fine.
in the ocean?
Or what if that's a new ball for them?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, this is great.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's like, wow. But it's true. It's like you take the gratitude back with you.
Mhm.
Because it goes back to what you were saying too, where you're grateful for your bed or you're grateful for like there's so many things where I'm like, I'm grateful for the hot water at home. Like
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yes. Or like no mosquitoes flying
Yeah.
around. Or like having the option to like close it out for a bit. Or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. So I know my friend, so shout out to my friend Amanda. She had a couple questions
oh.
and I sent them to you, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I'm like, did I
You
send them
did
to
share
you?
them with me, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, let me see, let me look up these questions. Okay, so shout out, thank you, Amanda.
Oh,
You listen like
Amanda.
all the time. Okay, so it says here, I think we talked about this one. How can travel be a way of coping and growing versus running away from reality? So we touched on that one.
Yeah.
The other one is how do you manage anxiety, sadness on the way back home from traveling? That's a good one.
There's that one song, the back to life, back to reality.
Oh, I haven't heard it.
Oh, you have
You have to
oh.
send it.
Oh yeah, I always think of it like when you're landing from an airplane or you're like going back to your home,
Uh-huh.
like back to reality, like back to the
Mm.
grind, back to everyday. I think that it has a lot to do with the perspective. Like, are you going to again? Was the trip giving or taking? Was it taking away your problems and like numbing, or was it giving? Do you come back a more reflective or happy or like even changing? A trip could change you. Like it can change your life or who you were or like your experiences and see like before the trip versus after the trip, this is who I am. So I think in order to cope with like depression and anxiety coming back from a trip is okay, I took this trip, I'm grateful for this trip. Yes, I'm going back to the reality and the day-to-day that was making me feel depressed, but I'm also grateful I got to take this. And what am I going to do, or how am I going to use this trip to motivate me to be able to take a similar trip or a different trip in the future? It's kind of like we have that choice. I mean, with depression, it's hard to make these choices, but reminding ourselves that like we can go on another trip, we can have this feeling again, and it's not always going to be down in life, like using it as motivation.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever felt like super sad when you came back from a specific trip? You're like, crap.
I think you always get that sense of sadness, like, oh, that was fun and that's over. Or like honestly, when a trip is tough or rough, I think it could even seem like, oh, it's finally over. Finally
Going back home.
going to my bed. But I don't think I have an example of like a really
Yeah.
rough coming back,
Okay.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. The ways that I've like thought about it or not thought about it, there have been very many times for me where I am really sad when I come back.
Oh,
Yeah, and there's been times where even with friends, I'm like crying, like I'm going back home. And
no.
even with the Canada trip, it's like, okay, I'm sad. And like I've always pondered, like, okay, why? Like, why am I sad? Like, what is it? And what's popped up for me before, it's like, oh, it's the home life. Like I miss my
Yeah.
bubble of peace, or I
Yeah.
miss my own personal space. Right? Or it is like, oh, like I love being on this high of traveling because everything's so new and on. Now I'm going to
Exciting.
like a routine and I don't like routine. Or back then I didn't like it. Right. And then this last trip to Costa Rica, even though there was a lot of like, okay, what's happening with my light? Right. Like there's a difference. Like I can see the shift. At the same time, I was so happy to come back home. And for me, it was very interesting because for me, it was like, oh, this is the first time where I'm not sad about it. Like I'm not,
Oh,
yeah. And I think for me, it was like, maybe because it's like, there's like the school thing that I started. Like I'm excited to focus on that. Like I'm
that's
actually
something to
excited.
look forward to.
Yeah. Then it was like, oh, I'm excited because I do like my routine. Like I love running. I love having my meals prepped or whatever that looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, this is so interesting. Like, okay.
It's a
Like,
change in perspective.
yeah, like what is it that you can look forward to when you come back? Just as we talk about like looking forward to a trip, like what can we
Yeah.
look forward to when we come back home?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too for me what popped up was like on the Canada trip was like, oh yeah, like it's time for me to like officially move out. Like it's time because it's a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something about like traveling too, if like the same pattern keeps popping up, it's like, what is it? Like, what does that look like? Because if it's the same thing. And I've always like wanted to work on, I want to make sure that the way that I live my life at home is like when I'm traveling.
To have that
So
same feeling. Yeah. I
yeah,
was going to say
yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, like I'm traveling, but then I'm also coming back home and I'm still traveling back home. Not really traveling, but just the same feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you live your life so full of whatever that you don't need vacations or a trip.
Yeah. We have the choice to make that happen, I think. Like,
Yeah,
if you feel that you don't like routine, then don't have the routine.
yeah,
Say, today I'm going to do something different, or
yeah,
I choose to not follow the routine and I'm going to take it minute by minute.
yeah,
Or if you think, I like the routine and that's what I look forward to coming back from a trip, then you
yeah,
can make that routine. It's a
yeah,
matter of the choices that we make.
yeah. The power of choice. Yeah, yeah. That's
And
good.
not easy, I mean, super not easy as
Yeah,
said
it's
as
easier
done,
said than done.
but like everything, it's going to take the effort and work. Like if you come back thinking,
Yeah,
oh, I don't want to go back to my routine, I don't want to go back to my life, like then
yeah,
maybe that is a wake up call. Like, you don't like
yeah.
that. Let's try to do something different.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like maybe you don't like that life in some way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. That's so true. My friend and I have talked about that because she had asked me like, "Oh, like how do you deal with sadness too?" Or, because she had felt the same way. That like, oh, like I think it's my own signal that it's time to like create my own little life outside of home, my parents' home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll see,
And
right?
it's
Like,
hard, but you can do it.
yeah,
We think like, oh, this is my reality right now. This is the only thing I can do. But
yeah,
I mean, look, you're making that leap. You're scared, but you're going to do it. Like,
yeah,
am I going to choose this routine that's making me unhappy?
yeah,
Or am I going to choose something that's scary, but has
yeah,
possibility of making me happy? And therefore,
yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah, and it's like you have to make the leap, right? Like at some point, it's like if I make the leap or like the jump, like there's a lot of that risk of yes, it can lead to that joy that I've been wanting for so long, or that peace that I've been. It's like it's worth it
I think
in
it's
some
worth it.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so the last question that she asks is the benefits of traveling with self and the benefits of traveling with others.
I am honest. I admire you for being able to
Mm,
travel on your own.
thank you.
I think
Yeah.
that is such a powerful like characteristic that you have. And
Thank you.
I tried it once and it didn't work for me.
Okay.
And so I think that it's different for everybody, just
Yeah.
as traveling alone is. traveling with
Yeah.
people. I also think that the dynamic is different with the type of people that you travel with or the relationship type of travel. And I don't mean just like partner kind of relationship, like
Yeah.
who is that relationship? I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you travel with your friends? Do you travel with your mom? Do you travel with your child?
yeah.
Like each experience is going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Who do you prefer traveling with?
My husband.
Oh, shout out to the husband.
Yeah, honestly, I really, really love traveling with him.
Oh.
He takes care of a lot of the, like, I think that's why I like traveling with him. I hate to say this out loud, but when I'm traveling with others, I am the carer.
Okay.
I don't know.
The
I like to
caretaker?
take care of the, itinerary, and I like to like, oh, okay, now we gotta go here. We have to go there. We have to go here or there, and so I have to. Okay, I don't have to. I choose to be the caregiver of that situation. But when I'm traveling with my husband, I get to be like, I am a mom, and you're going to take care of which way we go, what time, and how we're getting there, because all I need to focus on is myself and my son, and
which is
everything
nice
else is taken care
too.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you can lean on you and being a mom.
Yeah.
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 That's like it just gave me like the masculine and feminine role. Like
yeah, in
so
a way,
sweet.
yeah, like he cares for his family, and then I get to just enjoy. But then when I'm with others, I choose to take on the role, I guess a masculine role in a way, like well, not masculine, but like, okay, guys, like this is the train we're gonna get on, and this is the time, and
like the strong ass leader.
Yeah, the leader. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
The leader.
What's the word? I choose to take on the leadership role out of, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just feel like the need to take care of it. And then when with my husband,
you can just let go.
I get to let go and relax. And so that's why I like to travel with him.
Yeah. The letting go. Yeah. I mean, I love traveling by myself for sure. Yeah. I do. I love.
I think that's awesome.
But you're so right. Like, I don't think it's for everybody. Yeah. Right. Like for some people, like they just don't like it. Like they rather have company or their friends or their kids or whoever it is. And it's like, that's totally okay too. Totally okay too. But for me, it's like I definitely love traveling by myself. And I know that moving forward with a partner or a family, I think that's something that might be one of my non-negotiables. I don't know, right? Like, because I don't know what it's going to be like if I have kids.
Yeah.
But I think I'd want to try it once when I have a family and see what it feels like then.
And you can still do that. Having a family, having a spouse or a child doesn't mean that you need to give up on what you like.
Exactly.
You can still make it work. I love to travel. I still travel with my son and my husband.
Yeah.
People think that when they have kids, like for yourself, like, don't think that you can't travel alone just because you have a child or a partner. Yeah. You can still do that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
I would love to try it for sure. I don't know, right? Because I know, like, I hear moms and they have their kids and they're like, oh, like, now I don't want to do that. Yeah. And I feel like that's the only feeling.
What they want. And
exactly.
What is it that you want? Like, do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to travel with them? And it could change.
Both. I would love to travel on my own still, at least once a year, and then travel with them. Yeah. But I'm also like, it's one of those curiosities where I see moms and their feelings change because it's like now when I just want them all the time with me and travel alone with them or with my husband, right? Yeah. But I'm also so curious if that's going to be like me when I have a kid. Because I feel like as a mom, you go through these experiences, but nobody else can experience them until you have your own kid. Yeah. Like you've had them in you, like you gave birth to them. Mm-hmm. So it's like I feel like a lot changes that nobody else will ever relate unless you go through all of that. Yeah. So I'm very curious as to like, is that going to change when I have my kids? Like,
I think it's okay if it does.
Yeah.
A lot of people think like, oh no, you have to stay with your child because that's your child. But then you get like all sorts of judgment, like, why are you not with your child? But times are so different now, and people understand like sometimes you need that alone time. Just as some people, like it's your hobby, right? Yeah. If you like to knit, or I don't know, you like to draw, right? Yeah. You're taking that time separate from your family or whatever, and you draw. So why is it different that when you travel? Like that's your hobby, that's your hobby. You can do both together, you can both separate. It's like, whatever it is at that time that's going to feel right.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah. So check out for a podcast 1462. I'll be talking about motherhood and traveling.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That's so exciting.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Like, today I went by
I'm not
myself,
kidding, but
and then next month we have a trip all together. Like, and
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I like that. I think traveling with friends is also fun because I think I get into worlds that I probably wouldn't have gone into if I was by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I think the last time that I traveled with a friend, who was it? I think it was, well, I mean, I guess like weekend trips like also count. But I
Yeah,
mean,
they
like
do.
right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And I mean, I think my friends and I too, like we're very similar in what we like to see. But it's still very different because it's like, oh, I'm hearing their perspective and what they think. And the really close friends that I have, they're also very reflective. So it's very nice to be in those bubbles with them where it's like they're having their own experience and I'm having my own, and yet we're together and we're
You
talking
get to
about it.
share it. Yeah.
And I really, really love that. Yeah. I think with my other friend, when we went to Mexico, there was like museums that, you know, maybe we got to see, or like a plaza. And it's like, I don't know if I would have chosen this, but it's so cool
Yeah.
because you did. And now I'm
Now you
experiencing
like
the
it.
plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Whenever I go on a trip, I always, and then people will laugh because it's really cheesy, but I do it every time. Um, I always ask them, what was your favorite part of the trip and what was your least
Oh,
favorite?
yeah.
And it's so different for everyone.
Oh,
Some
that's
people
awesome.
liked an experience, and some people, they say that's their least part. And it's just, everybody's
Yeah,
so different.
it is. But also what you said, it's so true with like who you travel with.
Yeah.
Like has a lot to do with it too.
It does.
Yeah, like I told my best friend, the one that you know, where I'm like, I'd never travel with you. Like,
Oh, you haven't traveled together?
no, we've been on like weekend getaways to like Joshua Tree
That
and like San
counts
Diego.
too.
But like, yeah, it does. It totally does.
Weekend trips. I'm just
but
kidding.
to
I'm just a
go,
strong advocate for weekend trips because people think like, oh, I don't have enough time. It's like you
no,
have
you
the
can.
weekends if
Yeah,
you have a Monday through Friday job. So
it's
that
true. You
Friday,
do.
Saturday, Sunday is your trip.
Yeah. And I
Sorry,
totally
continue.
vouch. It's true. Because when I went on one of my trips to another country and it was on a weekend trip,
Oh,
it's like, yes, you can totally do it. But even on like freaking Vegas, San Diego, totally.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. So you went on your trips with her, but you said you
Yeah.
haven't traveled with her.
Yeah, like we haven't been like on week long trips or outside of the country. And I joke with her, but I'm also like, no, I'm serious. Like I wouldn't travel with you.
You told her you wouldn't travel
Yeah,
with her?
because we've been so opposite. Like that's just who we are.
Opposites attract.
Like so true. But when it comes to traveling, it's like we travel so differently, where it's like spontaneous, and yes, spontaneous, but like very planned.
Do you like spontaneous or do you like planned?
I do like spontaneous.
Oh,
Like I'm
okay.
like, I'm just gonna book my ticket and where I'm gonna stay, and then I'll figure out the rest when I'm there.
Okay.
Like
and she is the planner?
she's very much like, what are we doing?
Okay,
Like we
I
have
think
to
I would
know.
travel with her. Sorry. That's awesome that you just go with the flow. Okay.
Yeah, just like we'll figure it out. Like we'll see. Yeah. And yeah, so for her it's like, no, we have to know. And also for me, it's like I like to get up early and go explore.
Uh-huh.
Like, yes, like I'll sleep in, whatever, but for me it's like I'm so excited. And I think for her it's more like we're gonna sleep in, like take our time. It's like, I don't know, like I've joked with her saying, like, I'm like, if we travel like that, I'd leave and then I'd come back and pick you up. And she was like, no, like you have to stay with me. And it's like, no, like I like my independence. Like even when I travel with friends.
Oh, okay. So you do like to have that time alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's been times where I've traveled with friends and it's like, hey, I'm gonna go do this and you're gonna go do that. Like we'll come back at like
regroup for dinner.
an hour. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not traveling with you, my best friend, but no.
Let's keep our friendship together intact. And
yeah.
hey, but you know your boundaries and you know what works.
Yeah.
So and you can still do the weekend trips.
Yeah.
And still keep your friendship.
Exactly. We'll do Joshua Tree again. And we are actually next weekend.
Oh, fun. I love Joshua
Yeah.
Tree.
Yeah. So that's good. But yeah, like that's what I had like in terms of talking about the podcast. Is there anything that you would love to share? I know you have a blog. Where can people find your blog? That was one of them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a blog. I create, weekend trips, week-long trips.
Okay.
I tell you what to do, where to eat, what experiences I had, so that, of course, everybody has different experiences. But I think it's more of like mistakes not to make
Okay.
that I already made,
Okay.
so you don't have to make them.
Oh, sweet.
And
Okay.
then you can find my website at outofoffice2.webnode or webnode, webnode.com. And on there, you can find all sorts of trips. And
Okay.
I understand that it's hard to get out and travel. And it's funny because I used to read the blogs before, like other people's blogs, and they'll be like 10 things to do in Seattle. And you're like, oh, but then I still have to go in and like think about what to do and where to go. And it's stressful. Planning a trip is really, really stressful.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be fun. So
yeah.
I created this so that you could do, it's like, I want to go to Ojai, California, right? And
Okay.
like, it's already planned for you. You just
That's
pack
awesome.
and go.
Oh,
that's
I love
the point
that.
of that.
Okay, that's like the intention with it.
Yeah.
So go check it
to
out.
like remove the stress of the planning, and they're budget friendly usually. Most of like 99.9 of them are budget friendly because I mean, obviously, it's hard to travel, but you can do it. So
it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're curious, like still try to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Before I close, is there anything that you would love to share on your side with traveling, with mental health, with anything?
I think that traveling is possible for all, no matter what your budget is.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us have this idea that traveling must be luxurious and traveling must be a week long and it must be the best time of your life. And it's not always like that. It can be on a really tight budget for 2 days and you can still have the time of your life.
Yeah.
So I think that if anything you can get from today is like mental health is important. If you like to travel or if you want to explore and feel that curiosity of what God made on this earth and how beautiful it can be, to do it and not let today's feelings or budget or time restrain you. Yeah. And that no matter where you are in your mental health journey, that you can still learn and grow and still feel happiness again.
Feel happiness again. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm like, I'm going to end this, but I'm going to give